Hey man, how's it going?
Good, you?
Ah, can't complain. Same old when it comes to
Oh, I
me.
can complain,
You
but I
always can
won't.
complain. You're
I
always
won't for
complaining
the
about
sake of the
something.
viewers, listeners, hearers.
Listeners probably okay, but yes. Welcome to the review, of course, of our episode with a big piece of garbage, episode 8, and that of big disaster coming for New York, and we have to figure out what's going to happen with these characters. So this episode, I like this episode actually. I think this is one of my favorites of season one. Overall, I thought there was a lot of cool
A lot
things.
more Futuramery than
It
the
does
other
feel
ones.
more Futurama-y, doesn't it? Yeah.
Futuramery.
And of course, we started off here with another cold open, and that actually does connect with the episode, which is kind of cool. They're planning to be sent to some planet named Ebola 5, which I guess is like the virus planet or whatever.
That was a big thing at the time in the 2000s, right?
I was going to say, yeah, this is probably the joke of this, right? And then Hermes.
Nowadays they'd use COVID.
Yeah. Yes, they'd probably be using the virus for some form of this. But even then, like Hermes makes a joke, like, why can't they go today? He's like, because I need them alive, this kind of thing. Human life doesn't matter in this universe except for when they need it. And then, of course, the professor makes one of his crazy inventions. I think does this invention ever show up again in the future? It doesn't, right?
The death clock?
Yeah.
No.
It's just for this episode, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I would really like to know what it would said to Fry when he tested it out, because like everyone's like, whoa, and Bender's like, dibs on his iPod or whatever it is.
Stereo.
CD player.
Like, CD player. There you go. Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure at some other point he does say dibs on his iPod, which just proves how far and different it is. Because there wasn't really anything between CDs and MP3 players, was there? There was no Blu-ray CDs at all for audio.
Yeah, that was around that time. Yeah,
it went from CDs to digital right away. Wow.
Yep.
That's a weird thing to think about. But yeah, I can't remember what it was, but he did say dibs on his iPod. And this one, it's dibs on his CD player.
And yeah, with the CDs and stuff, because it went from CD in your CD player, and then you could put your CDs into your computer, and then your computer could take the music off of that, and then you could burn it onto something else or transfer it onto an MP3, right? And then later they'd be able to download music.
There was a mini step. I do remember this, that like, because CDs could only hold a certain amount, right? And then at one point they made CDs to be really good, where they could hold like a few hundred songs rather than just like 30 songs.
It was like
there was like a slight small thing when I think about it.
There's
memories.
It's a small side note to that in the movie Men in Black, like one of my favorite movies. I love Men in Black, and there is a scene where because Tommy Lee Jones' Agent K is talking with Will Smith's Agent J, and they go into the MIB headquarters, and they're looking at all this technology. And K says, like, oh, what do you think of this little thing here? And it's like a smaller CD.
Yeah, it's like smaller than the GameCube one, right?
Yeah, and it's like 1997, I think that movie was made. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny.
That time.
Yeah, but it's 1997 for the first one, and then 2002 for the second one or something. But yeah, it's just funny to think that, like, at the time, this is what they thought it was going to be, and it turns out, no, it was downloads and MP3 players. But in any case, the reason that the professor has made this death clock, and yes, they made the joke that Fry's gonna die soon, wherever it's gonna be, we never know. They go into
symposium.
They're going to a symposium, the Academy of Inventors Symposium. And this is where we get to learn a little bit more about Farnsworth's actual lifestyle, right? Like his real world. And at the symposium, we get to meet also people related to the professor, at least in his own personal life, right? This being
science fields, scientific fields,
in the science fields, which is of course one of my favorite characters, I think, for this, or at least antagonists of it, is Wormstrom. And this character is cool in my opinion. I like this character because he brings in this element of history that you don't really get to see with Farnsworth up until this point. So he's very much, exactly. And you get to learn a little bit more about the relationship that Farnsworth even had with his old jobs and his students and all this kind of stuff. So Wernstrom was a previous student of his, and he did
And mind,
something.
he's only like 20 years younger than him or something like that.
That's right.
They're both like 130 and like 147 or something like that. I can't remember how old the professor is in this one.
I think. Well, I wrote this down later. The professor is 149.
Okay.
As he currently says this in the episode, and then Wernstrom says, "Leave science to the 120-year-old." So it's implied that he's probably in his 20s, or it's 120s. Sorry, but yeah, this is the idea. So yeah, you're right. They're only like a 30-year, 25-year difference between each other.
And at that point, it doesn't matter because they're both super old.
Exactly, they're both like basically senile, in anyways. But it
But
goes
why
to
does
show,
he hate Wernstrom?
He hates Wernstrom because he gave him the worst grade that Wernstrom could ever imagine, an A minus. Oh no, an A minus, because penmanship counts apparently.
Yep.
on your
Remember,
your
guys, make your answers nice and clear when you do your paper tests.
Yep. If you ever do paper tests again in school, I don't remember anymore.
Oh God,
but
I
yeah,
have no
make
idea.
sure it's clear when you fill in those bubbles or whatever it is that you're doing for your tests. But yeah, no, Wernstrom hated him for, well, I guess, close to 100 years, because he vowed revenge, and he didn't do it for at least 99 years, according to the professor. So it's quite a fun situation there. I really like Wernstrom and the professor's relationship. Any case, we get a special guest star at the symposium as well with Ron Popeil. Do you know anything about Ron Popeil? Have you ever seen him?
I did look him up because I can't remember, because they've done this thing a few times where they talk about, like, because they introduce and Ron Popeil, the man who was able to make it so that heads could live in a jar, which is I thought like, so I'm like, is this guy real? So I did Google him, and he's just like an inventor, like in life inventor.
He's a real inventor. Yeah,
a real person. And he made the thing called the Chop-O-Matic. So if everyone remembers, it was basically you put like an onion underneath this cup or whatever, and at the top of this cup was like blades, and then you would slap the top of it and it would cut the blades, hence the Chop-O-Matic. And basically anything kind of like, it was like, oh, it's the Blank-O-Matic, was kind of from him. So in pulp culture, there's someone who's like, oh yeah, it's the Pop-O-Matic or something like that. It'll pop things for you or something like that. I don't know. So he kind of created the phrase "O-Matic," right? Blank-O-Matic. So
something of the sort. And it's what I read as well. Like you, I looked him up just to make sure that he was a real person. But
yeah, I was interested.
He's the star of like the infomercial type of thing. Like he's the one that was able to also sell these. He was also a very good salesman. Hence why I think
kind of the as seen on TV products.
Yeah,
he was like one of the first ones.
Exactly. So they were able to take, I think from what I remember reading, his father worked in a company that had the original O-Matic thing. And it was he that had come up with the idea, he being Ron Popeil, had come up with the idea to make it like a little video that would record people doing this kind of stuff, because people were losing money on how many vegetables they would have to take with them. So they're like, you know what, just make a tape of it, and then we can do this. And then that started like the beginning of those types of commercials.
Okay, see what you meant. When they went to go sell things, they were bringing like 20 vegetables with them, and then like, oh God, 20 vegetables cost a lot every time.
Yeah. So they're like, you know what, let's just do it this way. And then that's what started.
Make a tape, make a VH tape.
That's right. And so he became very, very good at that. And then that's what he was famous for. Hence why they probably use him as the talk show, the speaker of this. And I love that they say that he's the inventor of the heads in the jars. I think that is really good. Though I guess this does kind of break a little bit of continuity, because later in the series, you'll learn more about what the elements are that are in the liquid with the jars.
Yeah. And I think they even said like a Farnsworth did it or something like that.
Was it Farnsworth? But I think
that was one of the episodes where they went back in time, because they could lick people's heads, and they could go back to that time very briefly. It was just proving, and I think the actual fun facts for that episode, which we will get to eventually, but just there's Farnsworth's, like actual people named something Farnsworth that did actually do inventions over the time and stuff like that. And apparently, our Professor Farnsworth is like their great descendant or something like that.
On the side that is the Farnsworth, but not the Fry side, whatever.
Yeah, but not the Fry side. Right? Yeah, Fry was like the paternal, or maternal
side of this or something.
Maternal,
whatever the case, right? It was so distant that he wasn't related to the Farnsworths. So that was a very big thing for Farnsworth.
Yeah, I do like that. Yeah, he's not a true Farnsworth. In fact, he's a rotted branch with a whole bunch of beetles
way over there, right? Yeah. So this is this is of course another episode 4. But the heads in the jar element to it does come back with like whatever it is in the future. So I don't know if it kind of breaks continuity, but not a big deal.
I think this one,
Yeah.
Maybe it was a concept. He came up with a concept for it. Who knows?
Or maybe he's the one that literally designed the jars, and then whatever the element goes into this, that was the scientific breakthrough of another person who we'll get to in the future with that episode. But yeah, it's cool to think that this person did it just as another side thing. And unfortunately, this man is now passed away. He's dead now, but whatever the case. Any case, we continue on, and Popale is doing like introductions for everybody. So Wernstrom is first to show off his invention, because this is how they win this kind of competition for an award. Wernstrom has I guess he quotes it as the reverse scuba suit, which is basically a fish gets a suit that can then go on land.
Fish gets a scuba suit for it to be able to go on land.
And then he treats him like a dog, and quite badly, actually. Hits him with like a newspaper when he doesn't sit. But
that's just a trend you see in like any kind of animation, stuff like that. Any kind of thing that isn't a dog acts like a dog. One of my favorite examples of this is the movie Tangled. The horse in that.
The horse acts
more
like
a
dog.
Right?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite animal anthropomorphization, or whatever the word I'm trying to think, where they give a lot of human like emotions and elements to an animal. Because the fact that he picks up a sword and tries to duel with Finn Rider, it's just such a funny idea to me, and I love it because it's not a horse using its hooves of a 400-pound, 500-pound monster just kicking the crap out of someone. No, I'm gonna pick up a sword and duel this guy. I love it
with a sword as a horse, right?
Well, but then there's other ones too where he acts like a dog, like when they first meet. Rapunzel's like, "Who's a good boy?"
Yeah,
and like wags his tail like a dog. It's a very funny thing to see animals act as a dog, because it's just easier for people to kind of it's acting like a dog. Who's a good boy?
Yeah, it's easier to see them for something that's familiar to us, right?
Yeah.
What is it? How to Train Your Dragon. I think the dragon itself, the main dragon, was kind of based off a cat or something. I remember hearing that. So they do this all the time with these things.
The character design for that one was pretty hard, they said, because they wanted it to be able to glare and stuff, but they didn't want it to be too glary that it looked evil all the time or angry. So they made it more cat-like, which with its face and stuff, which
worked out very well for it when it did all these things, right? But yeah, with the fish, it's just kind of funny because like a fish, clearly, because the scuba suit that he walks out onto the land, I guess you could call it a terra suit, walks out and
it has mechanical legs.
So it's not like it's the fish's fault that he can't sit. It's just like, I'm just overthinking it, but whatever. Point is, it's a joke.
It's what we do. We over like to overthink, because it's fun sometimes to try and make sense of things that were just a joke.
They're just literal jokes. That's all it is, right? But he hits him with the newspaper. The fish sits, so I guess he got it to work, and then he that gets the applause. So the point for the scene, of course, though, is that the professor wanted to show this death clock as his invention for the symposium, but unfortunately, as Wernstrom will point out, you did this last year and everybody made fun of you. So the professor has forgotten a year of his life, or at least the previous year of his life, where he would have done this already. So he needed to come up with something.
Senile. He's kind of senile. He's a senile old man at this point. He's like, "What you got, Wernstrom? Is it going to be as pathetic as that death clock you made last year? Oh my, oh dear."
Did it put your young whippersnappers in your place? Yeah,
whippersnappers. Yeah. So he has to come up with a new invention in the next 10 minutes, and so
which he doesn't have the material, but he just doodles, right?
He doodles on his napkin.
And this is the invention of his new one, which we'll come to see it later in the episode. The smelloscope, which will also be shown in later episodes of the series. It's kind of a mainstay, which is wonderful. The smelloscope that can smell distant objects. And there's a nice bunch of jokes here. Yeah, like all the wonderful odors I'm going to give to you, or let you smell. And everybody's laughing. So unfortunately, the professor is absolutely embarrassed, and Wernstrom takes his revenge, and he gives him the worst grade imaginable for inventors, which is
a minus.
Exactly, 2 minuses on this. So you're still doing very, very well in school, but to the scientists, to the smart people, an A minus is the worst thing possible.
Let me ask you this, because like this, I don't believe that this would happen or something like that. If you were at like school or something, and you had a presentation, but like you're like, oh crap, I didn't do it, and then you just came up with the idea of it, you think you would pass?
No, but that's exactly what I mean. But that's what I mean, right? That's the joke, because this is still an A.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Even though an A is like really, really good, a minus to a minus is like probably not worse than a B. But a smart person, it's like Ouch.
If my thinking is correctly, like a B, like an A minus would be like 90, something like that. An A is like 95, A plus is 100% kind of thing. So an A minus minus would be like, it's not quite a B plus, which would be like what, like 89.
Sure.
Like that.
So like 89 and a half.
It's like 89 and a half.
And that's the worst revenge. The best revenge that Wernstrom can have on the professor.
Like I do get it. There are people out there who strive to be 100%ers and stuff like that.
Amazing.
Like, and let's just face it, you're never gonna be 100%.
You're never gonna get that good.
There will always be something you are not good at. It could be height, weight, color of hair, having hair, stuff like that. There will always be something that you will never have 100%. And people need to get that in their mind that they're never gonna be the best. They'll be good at stuff, but they won't be the best at stuff.
Totally. Like strive for perfection, but don't hate yourself for not. Exactly. Don't expect it all the time, right? Don't hate that kind of thing. And I think that students in general need to understand that for sure when it comes to this kind of lifestyle.
There's always going to be people whose parents say like, hey, you need to be the best at this and stuff like that. And those parents suck, but not that I had those. My parents were like, just do the best that you can. And 60%, you can do better than that. It's like, I tried, Mom.
People,
I tried, Dad.
It's not that parents will also do this. It's also like students who believe that they have to be like this kind of thing.
Yes, which is clearly to prove themselves too. Yeah.
Which is clearly where Wernstrom is coming from. We don't ever learn about Wernstrom's family, but at least
there's no backstory on him,
right? Yeah, but Wernstrom is clearly coming from a spot where he has to be perfect. He has to prove everybody that he's the best, obviously. But that's on the side. We'll come back to him in the future as well. Another person I wanted to mention is a quick thing is like there's a second scientist who's shown his invention for trying to do this, and he makes like this helicopter hat. Thought that was kind of fun.
They're called Bellini hats, I believe.
Sure, but like he spins it enough that it actually spins and brings him around there. So I thought that was kind of a fun little joke.
Yeah, so the hat becomes a helicopter, a hand crank helicopter for you.
Yeah, so you can fly with your hat. It's pretty funny, and of course Wernstrom gets the symposium trophy for winning best in show, despite all this stuff, and Professor Farnsworth feels horrible. So in any case, they go back. I was going to ask you about this because as an animator, there's this one scene in this. Maybe you probably picked it up, but I was watching this. I always catch this whenever I'm watching this episode, and it throws me off a little bit. So Professor and these guys, I think Leela, Bender, and Fry are all there trying to cheer him up, and he says, "I guess it's I'm too old to be a scientist. I'm 149. It's too old to be a scientist." And Fry tries to comfort him, and he says something along the lines of like, "Do you think it's always going to be easy? Like you shouldn't just give up when things get hard. Are you even paying attention to me? Oh, I give up." Right. And that's the joke for it. But as he says that, his mouth doesn't, and his facial, like his facial.
I see. He goes to like a neutral expression.
Yeah.
When he says, "Oh, I give up," he should be sad, but he just went, "Oh, I give up."
Kind of neutral. Up. Yeah. And he's kind of off, but then also his mouth doesn't fit with the words I found. And it just kind of throws me off every time I see that animation. But is that just me, or is that what do you say about that scene?
Okay, so this has been a thing I have to deal with on a daily basis now.
Right.
Again, that I have a job. I have a job again, guys. Woo! So whenever and this could be, I don't know who did the animation for this stuff, and sometimes this is what companies do. They will send things overseas to be animated by different companies because it's cheaper. So it's not immigrants coming to your country taking your jobs; it's your country giving it to faraway countries. And because they're cheaper.
It's called outsourcing.
So this is what happened on one of my previous jobs. Basically, what we did, we would send it to the Philippines, to an animation company out there, and they would animate it. And now, generally, like you think the Philippines don't speak English, they do. I don't think it's their main language, but it is a language that they commonly speak. But mind you, like
major language that they use.
It's a major language.
It's a business language around the world, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's lip sync for animation is not an easy thing to get it right, because like there's I don't know how many shapes of mouths there's. I can't think of the top of my head, but like there's a lot of different shapes and stuff like that. And some languages have like a very more I can't even think of a language right now, but like English doesn't have like we don't roll our R's like the French would do, right? And stuff like that.
So
yeah, just there's different languages and stuff like that. So whatever is common in the Philippines, again, just using that example, is different here in North America and stuff like that.
Sure.
So lip sync might not be the same, and also just some people just don't care sometimes to do lip sync properly. And a lot of notes I get is, "Hey, can you please redo the lip sync or give it a pass or something like that?" So I will have to redo it. And sometimes when you're animating, you animate on twos, so that's every other frame for 24 seconds. So sometimes people will talk very, very fast, and you don't need to do a lot of lip signals and stuff like that. But then it looks messy. If you were to do every frame, it would look messy unless it's like a, oh wow, which is a very similar lip sync. You're doing a lip drawing. You're doing an ooh sound for ooh, oh, and wow.
So there's like different animations for those sounds.
Yeah, and you can extend it and make the drawing look good and stuff like that, fluid. And I also do get like, hey, the expression looks weird here on this one. He should be sad, not neutral or happy or something like that. So I do get a lot of notes like that and things. So it's not uncommon. And it could be that they just missed it, or like it was one of the last minute things. They're like, it doesn't break.
Not a big
break
deal.
it.
That's the thing. It's only for a couple of seconds, right? Not even. Yeah. So it's just like, I just remember
you're not
watching
wrong.
this. I'm always noticing it. Yeah.
I think a director would have called that, and like maybe they were just running low on time or something like that, because mind you, I'm pretty sure this is back in the day of cells, like animated cells. So you have the animator draw on paper, then you would have I can't remember what it's called, the tracer, basically the cleaner upper. They would clean the thing, and then they would have the cell that they would copy it onto the cell, and then they would send it to the next person who would be the painter, and so they would paint the back of the cell for it. And I'm pretty sure that's still with this time for this episode. So there's a lot to do when, like, if something doesn't work, but you've already kind of shot it, and then you've animated it, you cleaned it, you've traced it, you colored it. That's a lot to kind of undo, and especially for back then. Again, I don't know where they did the actual animation, and back in those days, they would actually literally ship the actual paper. And mind you, it's 24 drawings per second, and it can be multiple drawings for different, like there's multiple characters. So now there's 2 characters in the scene, so it's now double the amount of paper. They would literally send this paper to the animators. They would send it back to whoever's supervising it. So there's a lot that goes on for this type of time too. So it could be like, well, this looks bad. Yeah, let's do Friday. It's Tuesday, and it'll take 2 days to get there and 2 days to get back. We just don't have
the time. We don't have the time to do this
for something this small. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, maybe standards were a lot higher back then, or maybe there's more people on the continuity or something like that. I don't know. But nowadays, something like this is a much easier fix because of digital help. It would be an email. Hey, Mitchell, fix this. Can you fix this by 5 o'clock? It's 1 o'clock now. Yeah, no problem. Boom, boom, boom. Here's it going. Okay, cool. We'll make sure it's first on the priority for rendering. Boom, it's done. Cool. Thank you for letting me know.
So back in the day, then, if it takes you maybe a couple of hours, like at worst, it takes you a couple of hours to fix a scene like that with the current standard of technology. Back then, how long would it take people to fix this if that was necessary?
Again, most of the time was shipping, because you couldn't email the scene to someone. You had to physically take the actual paper
that people had to get the new. Oh, okay. So that could
and mind you, like I don't know this. If this was all underneath one roof, it wouldn't be that bad. But if it was, say, like a studio, more than likely this would have been in LA, probably.
Yeah.
Like, say, northern, and this would have been in the 90s, so, or early 2000s. So I don't know how big the city was back then and where offices would be. But say it took a few hours just to deliver the stuff. Mm-hmm. And even then, you can have an express courier, maybe. I don't know. So what could take me minutes to do would take them hours.
Sure.
Just in terms of communication and getting the actual product. The animators could have probably maybe made that fix in an hour at most, because it's just an expression change and adding and doing the lip sync properly, which that could take time, especially on paper, because you're not scrolling through a kind of thing. They had timesheets back then, which I cannot even express to you the type of mindset,
the horror of these things.
It's the complexity, because like you had to be very smart, and it's just something that I don't have to worry about, because I can scroll through with my mouse going okay, wow, and then like, okay, it needs an ooh sound, boom 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 boom, there we go. Okay. Back then they had to play the sound and go, okay, frame, it starts here at frame this and it ends here at frame this. It's kind of guesswork and a little bit too. I'm not speaking from experience, I'm just speaking from from learning about it. So I never had to do it myself. And I think we did it like once or twice, and they're like, yeah, this is good enough. You don't have to worry about it anyway. So it didn't really matter.
And then this is what gives the illusion that the characters are like speaking in a coherent way that we recognize. Not only are they saying these words, but we know that their words are matching with the lips, even though they're animation. Right? And that is pretty cool. Actually, you can do that. So
one of the best ways to even think about lip sync is puppets. Like
when you can,
they don't have lips. They can't do oohs and fuzz and buzz. Well, actually, they can do buzz because buzz is a closed lip sound, like muh. But they can't do fuh, or what was the other one? Thuh. Yeah, THs and Fs and Vs. You need to kind of bite your lip a little bit to make those sounds.
The phonetics, right? The phonetics are a lot
more like that, right? So like Kermit the Frog, he's just basically a hand and a thumb going blah 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 blah,
right?
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like, and even anime is another great one. They don't generally do. They have like 4 mouth shades: open, slightly open, very open, and closed. You can't make noises and stuff. So if you look at lip syncs for those, it's just kind of an open, close, open, close, open, close, and stuff. Sure. But for Western cartoons, I would say more likely Western cartoons, lip sync is more prominent and stuff. But you look at a lot of stuff from the 90s, they don't always match up, but they generally end around the same time. Like I'm trying to think of an example other than just Futurama here that people like a general amount of population would know. But there was a lot of Canadian cartoons that were cheaply animated, so they didn't have very good lip sync. And I think actually there's a few scenes in Ninja Turtles from the 90s that actually had that too.
Yeah, well,
like, I think even like the wrong character was animated. Like I remember a few times Donatello was talking, but it might have been Michelangelo that was saying the words.
Yeah, they screwed up like who was. I think even Family Guy, like they had times when they had issues with like which character was supposed to be saying. That's the early Family Guy time, right? I was even going to say
around this time.
I was even going to say like even the old Transformers shows, like in the 80s, because then a lot of the robots didn't have mouths. Some of them just had like the little thing that moved up and down, right? That was like their movement.
And that show, I what was it? There's that show, and then there was a couple animes that were also robo mech things.
Right.
That's perspective on like robotic blocky stuff. Those guys were gods, man. Perspective on like blocks and stuff like that, and cylinders, like robots would be the best way to say it. Holy crap, those people had amazing skills.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Okay, thank you for enlightening me on that, because it always is something I thought about.
Make that a 20-minute talk.
No, that's okay. No, that's because I asked you that, right? It's just one of those things. But getting back to the episode, I guess. So I hope
I made it clear for everyone. I know I fumbled my words quite a bit there.
Well, I think we now have a better idea of what the animation behind it. So if other people were like me and like, specific about this kind of thing, then now you can kind of understand.
There's another kind of I was going to bring it up. I didn't catch that one, so good job.
Oh, okay. There's another one.
There's another one at the end with Wernstrom. I'll go to it when it happens. I'll point it out when it
we'll get to that one. Now, speaking of which, of course, with this group, after Fry's little mishap with the animation or whatever it is, the professor decides, like, you know what, maybe I'm going to invent this smelloscope that he had drawn on there and got laughed at. And jokingly as it is, turns out, again, he had already made said invention and he just forgot. So that was taken out of the whole plot of the episode. So he already has it, which is great. We could just jump right to the next thing, because I think that's very Farnsworthy. And he introduces it to Leela, Bender, and Fry, having them up in his little observatory, I guess. I love this. This is one of the reasons I love this episode, because I really enjoy Farnsworth and his world building as well, but Farnsworth and his crazy inventions, and just you see more of the Planet Express environment, so you get to learn more about this kind of stuff, as you said, world building. Anyway, he brings it up and he says, okay, so take a sniff through the smelloscope, and you'll notice like every planet or anything, every heavenly body has its own smell. And so like Fry mentions like, oh, one thing smells like strawberries, one thing smells like pine needles or something, like beautiful new car smell kind of thing. In any case, this is something that kind of doesn't irk me, but it is kind of a funny thing. So Fry makes a joke about how like, oh, I love how I can smell all these things, but don't make me smell Uranus. Okay.
The planet,
obviously the planet, right? Because nobody else actually says the word anus very often when it comes to actual butts. But everybody else just looks at him deadpan, right? Like, that's not, like, I don't get it. I don't understand this joke. And it turns out, as the professor comments about this joke. He says, "I'm sorry, this was actually renamed in 2620, so about 600 years in the future." And the astronauts and scientists decided to rename it Eurectum to get rid of the Uranus joke. Of course, another joke inside of the joke, because Eurectum is yet another word for anus. However, I did a couple of years where it came to astronomy. And I remember my professor did tell us, don't say Uranus. That has been the incorrect pronunciation that people have been using for jokes.
Make the joke, yeah.
For a long time. And it actually baffles people why people don't know the real pronunciation, but that's why. It's actually Uranus. And that's actually how the old Greek was pronounced as well, because it comes from the who was it? The Uranus is the father of Cronus, who is indeed the father of Zeus, who is in fact the Roman equivalent is Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter being Zeus, Saturn being Cronus, because I'm also a big Greek mythology nut as well. But that was
Greek over Roman.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know enough about the Romans.
Well, it's the same thing. They just changed the pantheon names and maybe tweaked the stories a tiny bit to have the Romans be better on it or something.
And but Caesar did nothing wrong.
So in any case, there's a joke inside the joke with the Eurectum thing. So then they go on here and Fry smells again. He decides to smell around a little bit more.
yeah. I don't want to smell over there. No. I'll smell away from you.
I'll smell anyway, right? I'll smell over here. And what does he smell? But something, the worst thing he's ever smelled in his life. And we will come to find out that this is no other way to put it, a garbage ball. Big piece of garbage, as the planet, as the episode name is said. But it's giant. It's the size that, as it comes down, as the professor mentions, could destroy all of New York City in a horrible crate. So yes, it's. Go ahead.
You forgot this little thing on the smelloscope. There's a funkometer for how funky the smell is.
That's right.
And it's in red when it goes to. It's way off the funkometer.
It's really, really bad, right? Yes, no, you're right. That's a little fun thing. That's what I like. Again, that's what I love about his inventions, because they all have like these little things on it. Later, when we meet the Globetrotters, and they have even more with these inventions with his doomsday machines and such. Like, it's brilliant what they come up with for Farnsworth. But in any case, yes, garbage ball. It's coming down, and they don't. Like, what are they going to do? So the professor has found out
72 hours.
Yeah, 72 hours, I think, for that. Yeah. He brings them to the main room, and he said he's on the internet. He's found a documentary that will kind of fill in everybody on this information. So this apparently was made in the 2000, I guess, literally 2000. Good documentary.
Same year would have come out.
That's right.
Same year the episode would have come out.
The Great Garbage Crisis of 2000, and of course this is in New York City. So interesting thing about this is also the introduction, I believe, of I'm blanking. Is it Herman that does the documentary voice guy, like the guy who's always like, greetings and hello there, and this guy, is it him that does the voice of this? He's always doing the documentary voiceover guy, or the guy who's in
which are the actors? I think it sounds like Billy West to me.
Is it West? Maybe. Okay, because it kind of does have that Nixon-esque sound to it. Like, I wonder. Maybe you're right. It might be Billy West. I thought it was.
Because it doesn't sound like Phil Lamar.
It's not Phil Lamar. I thought maybe it would be David Herman, who does Scruffy and those other.
No, I'm listening to it right now. It sounds more closer to Billy West, but like again, Billy West is he's a god.
He's a god when it comes to voice acting, for sure. So
I don't know David Herman's voice enough, other than the Scruffy and the robot devil. So I can't say for sure, but I'm going to go with that.
Robot Devil's Dan Castellaneta. That'll become next episode. Don't worry, we'll come to that. But no, not Nibbler, but the other Niblonian, as I call him. He's the other guy. No, that's okay. That's like the main. Those are two very common ones, and I think he was also. Oh, there we go. From the robot episode where they go to the robot planet, he's one of the main robot elders. Does that not sound like this documentary voice guy? That's what I thought. So either Billy West or him. Yeah, Quiet Jimmy, that guy.
Whoever was that.
Anyway, we see him or hear him in future episodes as well. So it's the introduction of this guy. The Great Garbage Crisis of 2000 makes mention of how in Manhattan during this time, garbage was horrible. It was everywhere, which I guess is a fairly true thing. Garbage is
Probably was.
some wasteful things. And then of course it goes on.
That much better.
Right. Well, because they make a joke of that later in the episode. And then he talks about how during this time, the mayor at this time, you and I talked about this a little bit beforehand.
Yeah.
Whomever the mayor was this time, Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy. They never flat out say it, but this is kind of what a lot of people do. They do kind of like make political figures look like the current one that they're making fun of or whatever, whether they like them or not.
Even if they don't use the same name or something, but we never actually hear the name of the mayor. It just says the mayor of New York. Yeah. He pushed a barge with all this garbage. They just got rid of all the garbage, pushed onto the ocean, and then it says something along the lines of like, a very filthy country didn't even want to accept this garbage, but he just leaves it open to the imagination. It says, you know, the country I mean, right? So everybody could just laugh at whatever country
anyone could say,
oh,
it's England they're talking about. Oh,
sure.
No, it's South Africa. No, it's China. No, it's Japan.
It's
whatever country you think, Australia, whatever country you think's the filthiest.
Yeah. Sweden. Whatever one you want, right? Whatever country you secretly hate, you could make it that country as long as it's on the water, on the ocean.
Yeah. It has to have a coast. It can't be like, oh crap, I can't think of a country that's landlocked.
Ukraine, or I know. Does it? See, now I look like an idiot.
Yeah, see, exactly.
Name a country in Africa, like anything in the middle of Africa or Asia or whatever.
Egypt.
Yeah, no, sure. Any case,
you're letting one of my weaknesses show, man. I'm very geologically challenged. I can't even say the word.
Can't even say the word. Geography.
Yeah, geology. No, geography.
Geography.
Geographology.
Geographology. There you go.
Geographically challenged. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Geographically challenged.
Wonderful.
Took me 5 seconds.
Any case, they couldn't get. Nobody else wanted the garbage. Obviously, came back. They talk about how they use their mob connections. I think this is another little thing for like Italian American people. Like,
well, I do know that in like I think World War II or something like that. Like I can't remember which mayor. It could have been on the West Coast or East Coast or something like that. They actually had Al Capone. I think maybe it was World War I or something like that.
Yes, they
actually did have like the mob actually kind of like look after the docks or something like that.
There were parts of this. There was. Yeah, no,
there's always been examples of history between mobs and the government saying, "Hey, can you help us out, mobsters?" And mobsters like, for a penny, or whatever a mob accent I can't do.
And they never said that, but sure. I like your old timey mobster. Okay. But I think it's New York City because it also plays off of and Jersey, obviously. Oh yeah, that's another joke as well. They throw in New Jersey. New Jersey was full, and they couldn't put the garbage
New Jersey was full.
But so mob connections allowed them to acquire a rocket, and this rocket was then sent into space. And this is how this garbage ball has been there, and it's been there for, I guess, at this point 1,000 years. If it was,
he was in 2000, year 3000. Yep,
right,
1,000 years.
So. Near the end of this documentary, Fry's like, "Wow, you found this on the internet? Like back in my day, we used it for porn." And that is like, actually, it's still used for that. And then the documentary turns into a porno. I thought that was just hilarious. Very funny little scene there. It's like, now I need to help with my sexual things, like with gusto, and they have like these weird accents. Just wonderful. So, in any case, they find out the garbage crisis. So this is a garbage ball sent from 20th century America or New York City, which is now going to come back and destroy New York. Now, they have to tell the authorities, obviously, right? Because Farnsworth doesn't have the ability to deal with this yet. At least he doesn't have the okay to do so. So they go to, I guess, the current mayor of New York City, whom I haven't. We've seen many times there, but I wasn't sure if they were going to name him, but they do actually. It's very funny thing. Mayor Poopenmeyer. Make that as you will.
I don't know if that was supposed to be like name or something like that. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he's just supposed to be a little jokey name there, but it still sounds like Meyer still has like a relative normal term, I guess, when it comes to a surname in English, or America. So there you go. And he makes a little joke about how hopefully this is not another bogus thing that we all have to worry about, such as two ones he mentions: global warming and secondhand smoke, which I do recall secondhand smoke was a bigger thing people talked about back in the day. Global warming, of course, and now referred to as climate change is still quite big and talked about for a lot of people, which is important to discuss these things with people. But he does make a joke about like, it might just blow over. But in any case, he asks for his science advisor, who turns out to be none other than
Wernstrom,
who I'm glad that they were able to rope him back in for this, because it makes a nice little continuity thing for the episode. So
circle back. Yeah.
It does. So, yeah, Wernstrom clearly doesn't like Farnsworth. We've established this, and not only that, he's ready to discredit Farnsworth as much as he can. So he's going
to could be some moldy cheese on the lens.
Right. He's going to be the denier of this kind of thing, right? So Wernstrom, of course, because the audience knows this is coming, but Wernstrom, of course, is like, he's using scientific reasoning. It could be a lot of other things. He's an old senile crackpot, which I've proven with this. How can we trust him? Which he does bring up points, but all for fun for this situation, because we know that he's lying. And then, of course, they do this this transmission joke when it comes in here with the person's like, oh no, it's actually real because look at this transmission. And they're on Neptune or wherever. It's like, oh my God, a big piece of garbage. And then she says, oh, it cuts out there, but it turns out it's like, oh no, it's still going. So, oh, there we go.
I love that. I think that might be my favorite joke of this one.
Keep that in mind. I think that's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite joke of it as well. Oh no, I think I know what your favorite joke. We've talked about this in the past, but we'll come to it when the time comes. But yeah, I think that's one of my favorites as well. Now it's been proven that this is going to happen. There is something coming towards Earth, and it is this garbage ball. So they've tried to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? All this stuff, and then the news gets a hold of it. And this is also an introduction to characters that we will see throughout the seasons multiple times. That of the newscasters, Morbo and Linda, who apparently live in Los Angeles, so they don't have to worry about the crap that happens in New York City. But Morbo
is an alien.
An alien with like a giant head. Oh, and I will destroy you all. He has like always saying things to the camera that he's just gonna kill the human race or do something to the human race.
I will destroy you.
And Linda,
voiced by Maurice LaMarche.
Maurice LaMarche and Tress MacNeille, who voices Linda, and she's always just does this, like just
kind of like it's the things that that news reporters did, like, oh, what a tragedy.
Yeah.
Now on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of that.
What a wonderful thing! What a wonderful thing to happen here. And like, oh yeah, like I hope that doesn't happen to your house, or ha ha ha, this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Which they play on the camera because that's what people like to watch, right? There is some humility there. Any case, the plan to destroy the garbage ball, as comes from Farnsworth, use a bomb
detonator.
Well, the bomb, but just gonna but the detonator is a timer, yes.
Oh, right,
and put it onto the ball of garbage. Wernstrom says no one's gonna be stupid enough to do this, and of course Farnsworth starts his trend of sending them to their deaths whenever he gets the chance. And of course, Fry, Bender, and Leela are voluntold to go up there and do it because they work for him. Now, this is an incredible joke as well, but the professor is so silly sometimes. His bomb is set correctly, but he has put the timer upside down. So instead of being 25 minutes for them to get away, it is actually
52 seconds.
52 seconds, right? Fun little countdown joke there. 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So
that's a good joke too.
It's a great joke. Again, another one of my favorites for it. Now let's talk a little bit about this garbage ball. When they land on it, of course, because they have to do this kind of thing. There's a couple of things we see. We see that there's Bart Simpson dolls from there, kind of showing the continuity of this, which I thought was cool. Nancy Cartwright comes back for this and voices the Bart doll, the Eat My Shorts, to which Bender then eats his shorts and then says, shorts, reference to Homer Simpson. So that's a fun little joke there. Fry, I don't know. Did you?
Oh, I love this too. Yeah, my notes are kind of all over the place. I accidentally forgot to make notes for a certain part, so I went back. So I have to find it. But this was always a sad thing. I do not like this, but it happens. When people have beer cans and have like a 6-pack or whatever, those plastic rings or something like that.
Yeah,
those always get shown around birds' necks and stuff like that.
Right, that's another environmental thing. Yes. Yeah. Somehow Fry's head, which is also under a giant like helmet because they're in space, gets a freaking what is that? What are those, as you call it, like
the
plastic
can rings or whatever, plastic rings.
Birds and fish would get caught on in the water. He gets caught on Fry and strangling him. So Leela has to save his life.
Yeah, the thing that I find funny about this is, why does Leela have like a knife taped to her boot, and just how does she get it in between Fry and the thing without cutting Fry?
Same way, I guess, that Fry can get into one of those plastic things around his helmet. But you're right.
We're thinking too hard.
It's a funny thing for it. But anyway, Fry's like, okay, let's get to work. He
doesn't
want to look anymore. Yeah, he's done. He doesn't want to dig anymore for it.
Oh yeah, you also see a Spock plate.
Yes, and a Beanie Baby, a tiger Beanie Baby.
Right. I had that written down. Right.
My sister.
Did you collect Beanie Babies?
I collected a couple of them, but I think it was more so because my sister had more of them when we were younger. But I think she had that specific tiger one. I'm pretty sure, because she was a big fan of tigers. So seeing that in the comics,
I can't remember which one was my favorite
cartoon.
I think like my mom loved collecting them, and my brother and I like collecting them too. So usually we go and get one. I think I don't know if I have one in my place here. No, I don't have any, but I do have back home, my parents' home, in my bedroom, if they haven't changed it yet. I still have a few Beanie Babies that are around. I think one of them is my birth month Beanie Baby.
Oh, sure.
Like a green one for August, whatever. Right. And I remember Zach had one of his ones that he carried around with him was like a rat or something like that, Scrappers or something.
Oh, I think I had that one. I had a husky one, if I'm not mistaken.
That was a cute one.
Frog. I had a couple of the bears. I had a parrot.
Bat one.
Like I never had the bat one.
There was two bat ones. There was like a brown one and a black one. I can't remember which one I had, but the other one was like the rare one, and that you could sell for like a few $1,000s. And this was like Pokemon cards for people who's like Beanie Babies, Pokemon cards, or whatever kind of magical trading card. But this was like Beanie Babies.
They were also collectors. If you didn't take off their tags and kept them in mint condition, they could be worth something, because they weren't constantly remade, right? They were like
they were limited edition
supplies,
stuff, which,
right? Yeah,
I'm trying to think of something else, like toy wise, not card wise, that kind of held the same kind of like, you gotta get it, because I watched a documentary on this a long time ago. It was like a short, like 20 minutes, and there's people spending like thousands of dollars. Basically, it's NFTs. It's NFTs, but for real in life, you can touch them and hold them.
Okay.
And no way, and they're not bought with cryptocurrency.
Okay.
And the things that people had to do with Beanie Babies are hilarious. There was a couple that got divorced. They actually had lawyers on the ground sorting Beanie Babies and stuff like that,
because they're worth certain amounts of money, right? So like one person
just people, they're collections, and people are weird about their collections.
Yeah, could be that as well.
It's not Beanie Babies are just weird in themselves, but just collections are collections. People can collect plates, they can collect cars, they can collect baseball cards,
whatever. Yeah. Well, anything, any paraphernalia or merchandise that is something connected to something that's a limited time. Right. That's why.
What's the thing that you like to collect right now, Anthony? I think I know.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I have these action figures. Right. I almost forgot. Yeah, because my wife bought me an action figure of the original Beast Wars, because Beast Wars Transformers had come out, back in around this time, actually around the 1990s, 2000s time. And when I was a kid, I always wanted one of these ones that I could never get because they were always being sold out. And then of course they stopped making them. But because they rebranded it and redid it somewhat recently, a lot of these old toys started coming out again, and they had like better modifications and all this stuff, updated versions.
Maybe not better quality, but ones
for the most part, for the most part, they seem to be okay. They don't transform as well, funny enough, as they used to, because not all their pieces fit together, like all their weapons and everything, but doesn't matter. Point is, my wife wanted to do something nice for me, and so she got me the one that I could never get when I was a kid. And now she's opened up something in me that now I have to have all of them because I'm like that, and it's horrible. So I told her not to do this, but she did it. So it started out with just getting this one. Then I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get like a couple of them, just because like they're a trio.
What was the one that she got you? Tigertron, right?
Got me Tigertron, which was the Tiger Transformer, which was one of my favorites.
The white Siberian tiger. He was a cool one, yeah.
He was super cool. He was one of my favorite characters at the time. So I really wanted this one, never got it, and then I got it, and now I wanted all of them. So now I'm halfway through all of the stupid Transformer all again, spending all this money. But yes, I do like collecting myself. Thank you very much for bringing this up.
No problem. No problem. I myself, I like Lego. I like
you
Lego.
Do collect some Lego there, yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I bought, I think, was Boba Fett's Slave One ship. Oh, sorry, hold on. Boba Fett ship. They took away the name.
They brought silly name. Well, oh no, Slave One. Any case,
yep, can't call it that anymore.
Oh, something else I wanted to bring up as well. A little bit earlier, we learned from Poopenmeyer and Leela and Bender that garbage is not a thing that is very common anymore in New York City, right?
Which I meant to go back on that earlier.
Yeah, and
I forgot.
That's okay. And well, now I am as well, right? Recycling has taken over, and basically everything is recycled from one thing to another, which is very good, but at the same time can be considered a little disgusting, especially when it's old food, which Fry tends to think about with like sandwiches and such. He's like, oh,
I love it. Yeah, because and we recycle beer cans into robots. Yeah, and this beer can's recycled from robots.
Right, from old robots
into beer cans.
Your sandwich is from old discarded sandwiches, and he's like, oh.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get there.
God,
like I think one of the coolest things I can think of is that there's all the science things, like you cannot unboil an egg. Well, it turns out science can now unboil an egg. So are we going to be able to do like this piece of shit here can now be turned back into food?
Ooh, well, you brought up a very big conversation that I think we are not supposed to have. We're not going to have that conversation.
We're not going to delve into it.
But food for thought, no pun intended, for people who want to do that. Any case,
don't do
cycling.
It.
Yeah, just take it from us. Don't have these conversations with people, or do it. It's hilarious. But in any case,
you do it at your relatives that you just met. Your girlfriend introduces you to your family. Bring this up. See how that goes.
Like, did you know that? Yeah, have fun with that. And tell him he Mitchell and I sent you to do that. Told you to do that. That'll really get people to love us. But in any case,
it's a great conversation starter.
Exactly. Now, recycling has been established to be a big thing. So while they're on there, back to the garbage ball, obviously, as it's coming towards there, and the professor has screwed up the timer, and it's going down. They only have 52 seconds, if not
rather
less.
than 25 minutes, so they can't get away like they could.
Right. So this plan is just not going to work without killing them, which of course they don't want to die. Now, this is another little animation thing. Right before they cut to the commercial time, Fry asks Bender when they figure this all out. He's like, does this mean we're going to die? And then Bender says yes. And then Fry does this weird animation. Do you reckon, like, what is this animation? Like, I mean, like his head goes, it's kind of like Garfield. Like his head goes up, you see his tongue in his open mouth, and his arms are waving. Kind of like one of those wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men. And it's kind of a weird little animation choice at this point, because I never see that again. Like you never see that kind of animation style again. Like, your thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
They didn't quite. Well, hold on. They probably might have done this because this is just made by The Simpsons, right? Simpsons would have been 10, 11 seasons in at this point. But this is kind of generally how it is with a lot of shows and stuff like that. The first season is a little odd when it comes to animation choices and stuff like that. They haven't quite found their voice yet, would be the best way to say it. So this was maybe
testing it, maybe?
No, it's just that again, this is all hand-drawn stuff and hand-drawn styles. Maybe they have an animator who worked on Disney animation compared to Futurama animation. Very, very different, right?
Right.
One is, as we would call in the industry, feature quality, which is what you want for something that's a feature movie. This is television. People always want feature animation, but I'll say this. This is one of the lessons I've learned to accept in life. Even when it comes to just anything, there's a triangle. At the top of the triangle, there's money. At the bottom right, there's quality, and at the bottom left, there's time. You can only choose two of
the three. Well, that's we've talked about this with other
things,
certain things, right? Yeah. But it's always money and time plus what other thing, right?
Yeah, quality might be there for time instead or some of that. Like I can't remember, just money,
If you
quality
want,
and time,
if you want quality and time, then you're going to have
you
to
need to spend lots of
sacrifice your
money,
right? You're going to
short
spend
time.
that money,
You want great stuff in short time. You're gonna have to spend a lot of money to get
right.
that.
But if you want that money and that time, then you have to do bad quality, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
If you want it done cheaply but still have good quality, it's going to take a lot of time. It's basically like saying like you need to do it on your own time and personal work, but kind of thing. It'll take us 10 years to get this done. That's fine. You're doing it for free.
Right, exactly. It's the money factor. Whichever point that you consider the most important, right? That's the idea for this. Yeah. Okay, that's it. It's interesting. It's just like, I don't know if you ever really thought about it that much. It's just that it's another Fry animation that's jarring to me. And I'm just like,
I worked on like 5 things, but they were generally always either canceled after their first season, so I never got to see the voice of it, or I started working on the second season after.
Okay.
So like I haven't had the personal experience of working on something that I've had a first and second season. Usually I was always hired on for like a second season onward, or I was there the first season and then it never got picked up for the second season. Yeah,
don't let them
never got canceled. It just never got picked up.
Oh, right. Sorry. So
there's a difference.
Yeah, you mostly did the touch-ups, right? So any case,
yeah, the first few set of my jobs, I actually did the actual full animation rather than just fix stuff. Which again, sometimes the scene was so bad that I have to just start from scratch again. So
sure. All right. Well, now that the professor had screwed up the clock, they only had the 52 seconds, but of course they run out the timer, bomb explodes away from them, obviously, so it doesn't blow up anything, and the garbage ball is now unstoppable.
Bender throws it up and it hits an asteroid and then bounces back.
Bounces back to him, right?
Then throws it back up again.
Right. So they get out of there, they fly. I guess their ship can fly faster than the ball of garbage hurling towards planet Earth at this point, but whatever. They go home. People are chastising them for not doing their job. They call them losers, whatever.
I love this.
Yeah, all this stuff.
There's the crowd. There's a crowd that's cheering. I love it because they had a welcome home heroes sign, but they crossed out heroes and wrote losers. Over top.
And now they're booing them. So they were ready to like cheer for them, but now they're like, yeah, whatever. So any case, to do this, the professor is all pissed off now, or I shouldn't say pissed off. He's sad and angry at himself, embarrassed of himself because he swore he did it correctly, and of course he's reading instructions upside down. Fun little visual gag there, because that's why he put the timer upside down. Now Puppenmeyer's like, well, I'm turning to the true scientist that should be here, which is Wormstrom, right? Because he's his science advisor. Wormstrom pulls a dirty cross on him. He says, yeah, I'll help you. First I want tenure. Puppenmeyer says, sure. Then I want a full research lab with a grant. He's like, okay, done. And he says, I want 5 research students with 3 of them interns, which must be 3 of them must be Chinese. This is one of his qualifications. I don't know why. 5 of those 3 things and all this stuff. Puppenmeyer looks confused, but then he says, okay, sure, why not? What can you do to help? He's like, I don't need to help because I've got tenure. I'm good to go. I'm set for life.
I'm set for life.
And Wormstrom leaves. He abandons them. He's going to do his own thing, and this proves that Wormstrom was an asshole all along, right? Yeah. Puppenmeyer, Leela questions why Puppenmeyer won't do anything, and Puppenmeyer says, "I'd love to, but he has tenure." Nice little joke there. So they figure out though, and this is interesting. Fry
has tenure
is actually
changed since then. Sorry to interrupt.
I don't. Well, I'm sure there are special cases. In this case, like not the world, but the city is going to end. And the science advisor has basically double-crossed the mayor, and he's going to try and take all of what he can and get out. I'm pretty sure there's cause for taking away his tenure. But I think for probable cause, whatever happens with a professor or a teacher of sorts, I'm sure that there are things that protect them, but things that will not. So I'm sure there are legal ramifications for this. Right. So as I'm saying, the person that will figure this out, though, to actually how to stop the ball, because they figure out that it needs the same consistency and mass as the original garbage ball. Fry comes up with the idea like, well, what about more garbage? Which is unheard of to the rest of them because they've lived in a recycling paradise, apparently, right? Yeah.
Mayor Puppenmeyer is like, what do you mean garbage? You just can't find garbage lying around.
Right. You can't find garbage lying on the streets of Manhattan.
It's been garbage free for like hundreds of years.
Yeah, 800 years. I think it's 800 years or something, like a long time. So of course, yeah, people don't know shit about garbage, literally. And so Fry's like, watch the genius at work, and he just basically has them all trash his office, And then they do
I
this
love
nice
this.
little
No. Yeah, he does this thing. You see this pencil here? Just drops on the ground. That's garbage. This paper here. Garbage. This lovely picture of your wife. Throws it on the ground. Garbage.
Pure garbage. And then Poopenmeyer's like, huh, okay. And he drops something else. He's like, oh my God. Like, it's just a concept that you never thought of, right? It's such a hilarious idea to us because garbage is still very plentiful everywhere.
Not
now,
as much, but yeah.
Well, depends on where you are, but yes,
I think our view on garbage has changed decade to decade to decade because people back in like the 50s and stuff would just throw garbage outside their car on the road, right? And then later on it's just like throw garbage near a garbage can, and now it's like, oh God, there's the yellow recycling, the blue recycling, the green recycling, the black recycling,
red and all that
the
stuff.
red recycling. Where the fuck does this plastic okay, what type of plastic is I think that's a 6. I don't know. There's grease all over. It could be a 5. Just throw it in the garbage.
I've always thrown it into, well, in that case, you definitely throw it in the garbage because you don't know what that grease could be, right? So it's going to be a problem. But I've always seen it as this, like there's always the 4 main ones, which I think it's always either been yellow or black, which I believe was always the typical, just normal waste, right? Normal garbage. This is typically known as dry garbage, followed by, and this is of course stuff that cannot be reused, followed by like the blue bin, which was always known as recyclables, which can be reused
for like bottles,
cans, cardboard, paper.
No, I live in BC. There's they have like 5, and like
I know
paper garbage is its own thing now.
I know. At the time, this is what I remember. Just these are the main 4 that I've always kept up with. And then the green one is known as the compost, which of course is also known as like wet garbage. It's all food stuffs, drink, whatever. Just gets rid of that, decomposes. It's pretty easy. And then the red one is more so for hazardous materials, so battery.
That one's more at hospitals than anything else.
Exactly. So. This is why most people don't have, if not all people, don't have a red bin sitting outside their home or something, right? Yeah.
Unless you're a mad scientist who likes to chop people up. Now, we need to recycle the bodies. Yeah. Make sure they go to
Some
a nice.
Go in the red bin. The waste goes in the green. Okay.
Teeth can go in the garbage.
Yeah. Those don't really decompose that quickly. So yeah, it's fine. So in any case, they figure it out. They have this fun little montage of the whole city doing like more garbage, and in about less than a day, I guess, they make enough garbage that like 100 years of New York City was able to produce.
There's another joke though with Mayor Poopenmeyer. Bender was drinking a drink, and then Fry's like, okay, now you just need to throw that on the ground like it's garbage. So then Bender throws the ball on the garbage, and then Mayor Poopenmeyer's like, get this robot some more beer. And Bender's like, what? Like, as in, like, that's unheard of, giving me free beer. I love beer. Yeah.
And then on the camera, as Fry's telling everybody to like,
in front of the news,
throw garbage, like Bender's just smashing bottles with
drinking and smashing
them. So it's all good for that. So they figure it out. They figure out the density for all this stuff. They put the garbage together. They send it off on yet another rocket, and to the calculations of the professor, bounces it off, and the old garbage ball flies right into the sun. Burns it out. No problem anymore for that ball of garbage. But then, of course, Leela makes a mention of like, well, what about that other one? And they're like, oh, who cares? That's another 800 years, another 1,000 years of the future. Who cares? Like, fun little joke here, and this is one that we have. The 2 fun little jokes. So before they send off the ship, the professor's going to do a countdown, of course, and because the professor has been established to be going senile, he starts counting down, and then when he gets to 3, he goes back
5, 4, 3, 4,
so
5,
whatever it is,
6.
Leela just tells Fry, hit the button, and your favorite
Fry misses
place,
the button. He misses the button, and it's just a little thing, like he just goes, punk, oops, and then he goes back and hits the button.
So the silly thing about this is, like, you can believe that Fry would do this, but at the same time, this is an animated show. Somebody has animated the idea that Fry missed the button.
I love that. That's physical humor. You don't see a lot of like that anymore
in a cartoon, animation. Right? Because it takes time to do that. You could just hit the button and that'd be it. But nope, misses it. Oops, hits the button. Pretty good there.
And then, here, right before he pushes the button, basically, like as the rocket's there, and they're gonna set it up, and professor's like, man, I hope my calculations are right. And then Farnsworth, no, it's not Farnsworth, Wernstrom is like, well, I hope your calculations are wrong. And then we'll all turn into a ball of fiery garbage. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Right here, to me, this is the animation mistake that popped in my mind, because lip sync and he's going ha 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 ha. The lip sync isn't going up because he goes ha 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 ha. He doesn't settle into that, as that's an animation term, settle. He just kind of just abruptly stops, and the voice, his mouth is closed, but the voice still goes on. That bugs me, because a lot of my notes the last 2 weeks have been lip sync.
Fair enough. No, I thought when that happened, because you're right, something did kind of look off about that. So I'm sure at the very end there, I thought it was just kind of like he closed his mouth and then the sound is still coming out, but that's easily what could have happened as well with this editing. So no, for sure.
One of the shows I worked on, there was it was about two little kid characters and something like that. Now, maybe it's just me being older. Little kids' voices sound the same to me. So a few of the notes I got were like, hey, so and so character is not supposed to be speaking, it's supposed to be other characters' line. I'm like, but no, it sounds the same. So it's like, okay, well, fine. Blue character shouldn't be speaking here. It should be green character. It's like, oh crap. Yeah, I got a lot of notes like that a few weeks ago.
So you're probably more
on my last project.
You're more in touch with this kind of situation than obviously the noob, like myself, the noobs would be with this, right? So my last little thing on this scene is just like right as they push the button and it gets sent off, and then you have the camera pan over like the three characters. You have like Fry, then the professor, then Bender. So Fry has like the normal like beep 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 beep, like his heartbeat. Yeah. Farnsworth has this beep beep because he's old.
He's old.
Beat as much, but Bender's is like it's like a nice upbeat kind of. I love that. I don't know why. I just love that little thing.
Well, he's a robot. Thing. Why would he have a heartbeat?
Well, it's just funny that they made it like a tune like that, like it's just, I don't know. I love it. And then we finish with, of course, they destroy the ball of garbage, of course, forgetting about the new garbage that'll happen in the future, whenever that happens. And the professor gets credit from the city. Wernstrom basically gets fired from or let go. I actually don't know if he did, but the mayor calls him a dick or an asshole. And he gives the trophy that Wernstrom got at the beginning from the symposium, and he gives it to Farnsworth.
Yeah, because they confiscated it from Wernstrom because it was apparent that he was a jackass.
Thank you. Yes.
I love that.
And then his 5 interns are all like angrily yelling at the professor and making noises. And there you see three of them are Chinese. So he got what he wanted from the mayor. The mayor is a man of his word. You can't deny that. He does what he says. So in any case, the episode finishes with Fry and Professor holding up the trophy. Everything is all good for the time being. So that's big piece of garbage. Overall, I really enjoy this episode. I think it is my favorite, one of my favorites of the season 1, which there's only 9, but I think it's one of the top ones. All right, Mitchell, your call here. What's your favorite scene, funniest scene, MVP? What's your idea?
Well, I already know what my favorite joke is when he misses the button.
Right.
But favorite scene, I think it might be when they're. Oh my God, there's a few good ones, but I do like. This like they kind of, I think they found their foothold in their humor in this one. Definitely not the biggest fan of the episode, but it's probably one of the better ones of the season. Yeah, overall. MVP.
My MVP.
I would say Fry.
You're gonna go Fry, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go Wernstrom.
Oh crap, that's a good one.
Every time Wernstrom's on,
I'll stick with Fry.
You're gonna stick with Fry? Okay. Every time Wernstrom's on screen or in the shot, I'm always laughing. He's just a funny character. He's the biggest ass, and I just love it. My favorite scene, I would say, would probably be the funniest one, I'm throwing it up for coin cost here, between that transmission joke, like it ends here, sir, that he's still choking on it, and she's like, I guess it still goes off. Like they didn't actually listen to it.
Right, so that was a good one. Yeah,
that was pretty good. But I'm also happy with Bender's heartbeat beat, like the. I thought that was just so funny. You know what? I'll go with Bender's heartbeat. My favorite. I suppose not really my favorite scene, but I do like when they're using the smelloscope and when they're talking about all this kind of stuff. I think that's quite, I love that invention. I think that's a really cool thing because it does get brought back a lot. But yeah, that was that big piece of garbage. So anything left to say about the episode, my friend?
No, yeah, I think we've talked a little bit more than we usually have been on average.
When it comes to, well, we talked a lot about the animation is important for this one, right? Because there are a few elements that we see and we're like, what is going on here? So it's good that you have, for that reason.
I feel like this one might have been one of like maybe not the first ones, but like, because when you, not that this is how every production is, but you don't always go first episode, second episode, third and fourth. You don't go
That's
chronological.
Right. Yeah.
You might go like, okay, this one has a lot of effects. Like the next one is they go to hell essentially. So there's a lot of fire effects.
Right.
And I will say from doing a small amount of visual effects in 2D animation, not CGI, fire can go screw itself. Same with water.
Difficult for sure. Yeah. No, anything, I know animation, whenever it's like wavy or some form, I know that's difficult because you have to do those waves and everything. And as you mentioned, going to hell. So of course, for next episode, the Hell is Other Robots, episode 9. And also because this season was actually quite short for it, the season finale, which we'll talk about, as well as like overall our impression of season 1, which I'm sure you can already guess.
We'll do a little blurb. I think we're going to do the episode, which usually takes about an hour and a little bit. This one took a little longer than that. And then we'll do maybe a 10, 20-minute little
blurb about the season overall, right? Yeah, that'll be next time. But until then, thanks again for listening, and thanks again, Mitchell, for joining me. Have a good one.
No problem.